Well, Mike, it's a pleasure meeting you. We appreciate you sitting down with us today. Obviously, we want to know more about you, know about the team's direction. You built your reputation in small gyms, overseas, in tournaments, identifying talent that most fans wouldn't even know who they are. How does that background shape the way you view building an NBA roster today?
Shapes it with a lot of dedication to the details and an understanding of how important it is to go anywhere to find players, to make sure that we're going through all the right processes to find the best players in the world and to evaluate all different levels. So my years of jet setting all over the world, I'm thankful to have been to I think 50 countries by now, and so that time has really shaped how I view the game, how I view evaluation, and excited to bring that to the Mavericks.
Okay, so a lot of general managers, they come from the contract negotiation kind of side of things. You came from scouting. Obviously, we just kind of mentioned that. Do you think that gives you a different lens when it comes down to wanting to win this league and make wins in this league?
Yeah, I wouldn't compare myself to others in the league, right? Every general manager, to get to this point are the best in the world, right? And so, but having a little bit of a unique path in terms of, being at ESPN and Draft Express and Yahoo and in the G League as a video guy where I first started, and it definitely gives me appreciation for the path to get to this point, and, looking forward to bringing those perspectives here to the Mavericks.
We're going to talk about the draft here in a minute, but you've spent years evaluating players, a lot of time. What's harder, projecting talent or building a culture around talent once they arrive?
Great question. I wouldn't say one is harder than the other. I think the two really need to work in unison. Having an understanding of, okay, what is working in the NBA and what's not, being very current on the trends and stylistically, and evaluating your hits as well as your misses and learning from any mistakes you may have had, and then building a culture that is going to allow you to maximize every player you bring in the building. That's the goal. Maximize every player you bring in the building, every staff member you bring in the building, every coach you bring in the building. And that's the type of culture, we're going to continue to build here in Dallas. And so those two work hand in hand, in my view.
All right, so you're new to Texas. You just got here in May. Hopefully you got a house or a home so far, right?
Yeah, I got a house. I came in right away, had my wife on FaceTime, and she said yes. And so we found a place. Really excited to kind of finally get settled, and with the draft and so many things right around the corner, we're hitting it hard from the very beginning. So.
All right, so you're walking into a franchise here, the Dallas Mavericks, that's still dealing with a lot emotionally after the Luka era shifted so dramatically. How aware are you of the trust that might need to be rebuilt with fans here?
Yeah, very aware and sensitive to that, of course. And, I don't want to speak too much to past decisions and all of that, but very aware of, what the organization has been through, and excited to kind of look forward and, bring a fresh perspective and, offer a new lens in how we're going to build things, how we're going to evaluate players, how we're going to build a culture, and how we're going to do that in a way that's very connected, that's very aligned, and is very disciplined in our approach. So excited about what the future is going to look like here in Dallas, and excited to just continue to get going here.
So Cooper Flagg is obviously a massive chapter to start writing after the Luka era. He's one of the most talked about young players in basketball. As someone, who is very good at evaluating players and talent, what excites you most about developing him?
He's a stud in every sense of the word. When you talk about his competitiveness, his IQ, his feel for the game, his connectivity, just being around him since I took the job, and he doesn't miss many days here at the facility, and clearly very dedicated to his craft. To be 19 years old and be that mature is really, really rare. I haven't seen a lot of that in my career, and having a guy who plays well beyond his years, he's versatile, he plays both ends, he's unselfish. That's the hardest thing to find in this industry, is a player of that caliber. That's why we search all over the globe for that type of talent. And so the fact that we already have that here in Cooper is super exciting, and now it's our job to build around him and maximize him as best we can.
I imagine those are some intangibles where you would say ka-ching, whenever you're looking and developing someone or even scouting a player.
Yeah, no question. He has all those traits, and it's the coachability, it's the tenacity, it's the competitiveness, the maturity, winning. Really, that's what we're hoping to accomplish here, and we're going to accomplish. And he's a winner in every sense of the word.
Okay, so you've traveled all over the basketball world. You mentioned jet setting and learning all along the way. Are there organizations or cultures that you've looked to or even studied that influence how you want the Mavericks to run?
Yeah, you're always evaluating, the rest of the league. You're studying all over, really. You want to look at the best international programs. You want to stay up to date on what are collegiate programs doing, what are NBA programs doing, who is the best G League program, So we're always going to take a look at those things and see how everything's run from an operational standpoint, from a scouting standpoint, from a health and performance standpoint, player development. That's our job, is to do everything we can and have all the information necessary to make the Mavericks the best organization we possibly can, and that's what we're going to do.
The Mavericks have historically swung big in a lot of big situations, whether it's superstar trades, aggressive moves, headline decisions. It always feels like, they are part of the conversation in basketball quite a bit in that arena. Philosophically, though, as a GM, would you be more patient or more aggressive?
We're always going to do whatever we can to make the team better. Our goal is to win here at a high level. We're not going to skip any steps to do that. We're going to make decisions through a long-term lens, but of course we're going to look for opportunities to improve. That's our job. Masai's track record speaks for itself, and all the success he's had, and Executive of the Year and an NBA champion. And so just excited to continue kind of collaborating with him and helping him as much as I can. And we're going to be opportunistic in every way possible to build a winner here in Dallas.
What has Masai shared with you since taking on the job and coming here in May? And what about it do you like, that he's kind of told and painted for you so far?
I mean, we've had many conversations, obviously, just about different ideas you have and the vision for the organization and in ways that we want to build. And I'm thankful for that relationship and, what we're going to do here in Dallas. Like I said, his track record speaks for itself, and he's incredibly competitive and dedicated to winning at a really high level, and excited to do that here with the Mavericks.
All right, let's talk about draft night. That's where your reputation has been built, and without asking you to reveal strategy. What kinds of players are you drawn to in a draft, and what traits do you believe the Mavericks need most right now? Obviously, we're hinting ahead of the draft that's coming up.
We want difference makers. We want impact players. We want, whether that's a big, a guard, a wing, a forward, it's not exactly about positional need right now. It's about, okay, how do we find a player that's going to impact this organization for a long time and be a difference maker, for years and years to come. And really excited about 9. We love that spot. You look back at draft after draft, and the best players don't always go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So really, really confident that we're going to find a difference maker at 9, and looking forward to continuing our process to get there.
Fans, we kind of mentioned it earlier, just about how it's been an emotional few years right now after losing Luka, different directions that were taken, and obviously now we're kind of putting new furniture in the house and rearranging it a tad. What would be your message to Mavericks fans who are still frustrated or even skeptical about the direction of the franchise right now?
My message would be to trust in our actions, in our approach, and our process. We're never going to skip any steps. We're going to do everything we can in our power to help the Mavs, be its best self and be, again, as it once was, one of the premier organizations in the league. And that's just being so undeniable in our process, in our actions, in our approach to team building. And we're not going to miss any of these steps. We're not going to, leave any stone unturned. That's going to be our approach. We're going to be incredibly thorough, incredibly dedicated to this craft, and excited to see the results.
Last question is this. How quickly do you realistically believe that this team can compete for a championship once again? I think that's what fans really want to know after being removed from the finals just a few years ago.
Sure. We're not going to put a timeline on it. Again, we're going to be very process oriented in our approach here. And we just want to outline the best roadmap to getting there. And that's, again, with our process, with our diligence, with alignment, with collaboration, and how we're going to build this organization to be, one of the best organizations in the league. And that's through those processes. We want to be process driven and not outcome driven. And so to put a timeline on that would be unfair. We want to do that with our actions and with our approach.
Okay, last question, side question, but a last question. I know I said the last one would be the last question. Where have you eaten in Dallas so far that you've loved?
Las Palmas.
Okay.
That's my spot. Tex-Mex. Yeah, that's my go-to so far. I haven't been here that long, but excited to try some more of the food spots. But Las Palmas that's been good to me so far.
And you're from Phoenix.
I'm from Phoenix.
So obviously this kind of hits a little bit. You
Yes.
know, you find in the Tex-Mex, you feel at home.
Yes, 100%.